Hello.
Hey, Ina, I'm just checking your note in chat. I don't think we've started yet. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear
I
you.
can I can hear you now. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I think we're just always giving a little bit of time so that people can join the call before we get started, but I think everything's working okay.
Carrie, I don't know if you're in the same place as Wendy, or Wendy, I don't know if you're on or not. Oh, you're muted, Carrie. And it looks actually, now that I see your background, like you're not in the same place
Yeah,
as
I'm not.
Wendy.
Yeah, I'm not in the same place as Wendy, but she told me that she was doing leading the call today. So I think she's on.
Yeah, I think she was planning to lead. So just wanna
Yeah.
So she's let me know that she's having some technical difficulties, so we're trying to resolve that. She can
Oh
share,
yeah,
I'm not
she's
sure what's happening, and she can't seem to unmute, but you can, Carrie, and so could Ina, so it doesn't appear to be a meeting setting, so I'm not quite sure what's happening.
she said that she's having technical difficulties. She can't unmute or advance the slides.
well, Leslie or Carrie, do you guys want to start while we try to get um that resolved? I don't know. Maybe you can, I don't know which of you is in a better position to help her. Maybe if she logs
Yeah.
out and relogs in or something, she'll be able to get
Let
in.
me let me see if I can just call her real quick because I mean I know she's got slides that if she can't advance slides, I know that there's people who have slides. So hold on one second. Okay, I think Leslie is taking over. Leslie's gonna be able to access the slides and go through them. Sorry,
Yes,
everyone.
I'm just trying to find them in the drive, so thank you for everybody's patience.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Technical difficulties.
We understand those, Carrie. They exist.
Yeah, they just don't go away, do they?
No, and we're all patient, so it's okay.
Even when you plan and plan and plan.
Yes.
Does someone want to take over for Wendy? And since she's having
I-
unmuting issues, Carrie, maybe?
Did you, Leslie, Carrie said that you were taking over for
I'm
Wendy.
taking over for the slides.
Yeah.
And I can advance as whoever would like to
Oh,
facilitate
can you hear
today.
me?
Yeah, go, if you can do that. Oh, are you off, Wendy?
I'm unmuted. Yay.
Yay!
Good.
All
Well,
right.
Wendy, go ahead, Wendy.
Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you.
For your
And
patience, everyone.
thank
Welcome
you. Thank you, Wendy and
Yes.
Leslie.
Welcome to the monthly meeting for the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. And we will go ahead and get started. Our mission and vision, as you can see, every citizen and household in the Kansas City region will have access to internet and the equipment needed to use it and the skills needed to, of course, take advantage. Our mission is to facilitate collaboration among organizations and individuals such as yourselves, and initiatives working to bridge the digital divide so that we can maximize the resources for greater impact. There are many, many ways to connect with us, of course, beyond these monthly meetings. We have a website, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, we put up our monthly meeting recordings on YouTube if you need to go back and watch our content or even share with your networks. We have a steering council, and I believe everyone is here today. Carrie Coogan, Aaron Deacon, Ina Montgomery, and Tom Esselman. We would invite you to become an official member. It's free to join, and you can find our form at our website here listed. And we have an agenda here today. We're going to be hearing from David Baker from the Missouri Assistive Technology. But before we hand it over to David, I'd like to open up the floor or share actually and hear from one of our steering committee members, Tom Esselman. I believe he has some slides he'd like to share and some words and news about what he's up to. So let's see.
Thanks, Wendy. Do you have the slides or do you need me to share my screen?
You'll have to share your screen.
Okay.
And so Leslie will have to unshare hers, I think. There we go.
Yeah, I need to get permission to do that then. Okay. I will do it. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, at the meeting last month, there was a mention of okay, can you see? Let's see. I'm not sure if that was the right screen that I'm sharing with you guys. There it is. Okay. Right. So, right. In the meeting last month, many of you, hold on a second. Was that right? There we go. Okay. So, as many of you know, I have been a member of the steering council of the coalition since 2016. When I was originally the leader of Connecting for Good, and then in 2020, I negotiated a merger with PCs for People. And in the last year, PCs for
Tom,
People, yes?
Tom, it doesn't look like you're in presenter screen.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So in the last year, PCs for People shifted its leadership model to a national operations focused model that's focusing on national distribution, not local partnerships. So in December, my position was eliminated. And since that time, several other of the Kansas City team members have left PCs for People, and they are creating their own nonprofit specifically geared towards serving the local needs for devices and tech support. That's happening as we speak. There will be announcements coming up about that shortly, so stay tuned. In the meantime, one of the good things about having a national focus for me is that I got to focus and spend a lot of time participating in other coalitions around the country. One of them in particular was in the city of Columbus, Ohio. It's the Franklin County Digital Equity Coalition. I may have mentioned it to some of you all. The NDIA has cited this as the national model for coalitions. Now, I know during the last 8 or so years that we've spent together in Kansas City, it's incredibly clear how blessed we are with the breadth and depth of digital inclusion assets and practitioners. But at the same time, as a steering council member, I've been hearing for the last couple of years from people like Ina Montgomery, who's on the call, and Tony Lupino from UMKC, urging the coalition to do more, to create more structure and discipline, to help prepare the region for all the federal funding and state funding that's lined up. This was further reinforced early last summer when the Mid-America Regional Council published its digital equity plan with their own recommendation that made it clear that the work we're doing right now as a coalition is not meeting the moment, that there is a need for a new framework. And so Carrie and I, a few months ago, we actually took a proposal to David Warm and Marlene Nagel at MARC, and they agreed to convene a group of local stakeholders, and they're all listed on this slide. And this group provided endorsement and support for the creation of a new entity that's going to start doing work in a slightly different way, in a majorly different way. And the entity is called the Digital Equity Program Office of Greater Kansas City, or DEPO-KC. Now, I have to tell you that DEPO-KC did not really start taking any concrete shape until after I was separated from PCs for People. And the reason for that has been we've never had an entity operating in a completely neutral and impartial way. And now that I no longer have ties to a service providing organization, I have an opportunity to start doing this work on behalf of what we're calling these 5 focus areas, or the 5 A's, which are awareness, assistance, alignment, advocacy, and accountability. And I just want to briefly go through, well, what do we mean by that? And just to be clear, what happened is that group called the Formation Oversight Committee that you saw on the previous slide, this group right here, approved 2 things: for the Mid-America Regional Council to be a temporary fiscal agent for the creation of this new organization as a 501c3, but also for MARC's nonprofit arm, which is called the Community Service Corporation, to hire me on a temporary contract basis to be the interim director for this work. And so we're describing the work along the lines of these 5 A's: awareness, assistance, alignment, advocacy, and accountability. I just briefly want to go through what that means and why I'm so excited to start doing this work, and why it ironically ties to the fact that I'm no longer tied to PCs for People as a service provider. For awareness, there's so many funding opportunities that the groups in our region sometimes aren't aware of, or aren't aware that they're eligible for. A great example, just 2 days ago, Gabe Munoz from Toolbox KC had read about this new Kansas Adopt grant program, and he thought he wasn't eligible. But I found out after a call from Marlene Nagel, very few people had applied to this grant. And when I went through it with the Kansas Office of Broadband Development, sure enough, Gabe and the work he does, as well as many others, are eligible. So I got with now there's 4 groups, one of which is going to be this new nonprofit that's being set up by the former PCs for People group, that are all going to be going for that grant because they qualify and they're eligible for it. On the assistance one, I mean, that's really about developing consistency through grant writing support, data capture, and data reporting, because that's something that the funding sources are all looking for greater consistency. And that's why the third A is alignment. We want to make sure that as we prepare for this massive amount of federal funding, as well as more state and local funding for digital equity, that there's a set of common community goals, a scorecard, if you will, that reflects across the table all the different funding sources and what they're looking to achieve. And then the fourth is advocacy. We are committed to advocating for any and all organizations who are committed to digital equity work, no matter how large, no matter how small. Great example is our own Kansas City Digital Drive. I don't know how many of you all are aware, but in 2 weeks at the National Digital Inclusion, their Net Inclusion, which is the national summit for digital inclusion, our own Leslie Scott is going to be speaking on a panel and going through the myriad services that Kansas City Digital Drive provides. We should all be aware of them, but I mean, across ACP training, digital literacy training, healthcare initiatives, entrepreneurship. And the reality is our region should be celebrating a group like this and all the services they provide. By the same token, you know, I've been lucky to attend some meetings and get to know the Al Winder group with Kim Jones and Mike Hughes. I mean, these individuals are working at the pure grassroots level. They're integrating neighborhoods and neighborhood associations, and they deserve and need resource support to advance their work. They're not a 501c3. Right now, they're not aware of how to go about getting funding support, but there are mechanisms. A lot of the national and state funding opportunities allow for for-profit and not yet formed 501c3s to receive funding. So that's an example. And then the last example, I know many of you saw a note last week about the new Digital Inclusion Fund that's being created. And we in this new entity are just as committed as ever to helping make sure any and all organizations who deserve and need funding, that Digital Inclusion Fund is designed to support in anticipation of the federal funding, that you're aware of what to do, how to write the grants, how to measure your data. So we're really excited about that advocacy role. And then the fifth A is accountability. And that's just to say that to the extent we all participate in this and that we promote your work and advocate for you, we expect everyone who's seeking federal funds in particular to commit to a collaborative and transparent way of doing the work, sharing data against that community scorecard. Because at the end of the day, our overall goal is to return Kansas City to a stature of being a national leader, a national role model. But in this case, it's for our ability to be good stewards of the federal and state and local funding so that we can make sure that everything that we're doing to solve the problem is the digital divide, gets advocated for the work. The work is called digital inclusion, so that ultimately we can achieve the goal. The goal is digital equity. With that being said, I'm thrilled to be doing this work. You're going to see I have a new work email that I will be starting to use starting next week that's aligned to Depot KC. We are creating a website to be able to provide this transparency and this reporting mechanism. And Carrie Coogan, again, with the library, is playing a role as kind of co-founder of this initiative to make sure that we continue to have support for libraries as venues, that we can have public affairs support. And basically, it's positioning the Kansas City Public Library as a coordinator, not just of library systems throughout the region. And when I say the region, I'm talking about the bi-state Mid-America Regional Council region, 4 in Kansas, 5 in Missouri, where we're extending it to other counties as well, that our local stakeholders and funders are doing work in, like Allen and Lafayette counties, and even in Shawnee and Douglas County, others in Kansas. So we're really excited about this work. You'll be hearing more from us, but I just wanted you to know that's the status with me regarding PCs for People, but I'm not leaving the scene, and I'm excited to be doing this work to promote all of you going forward.
Thank you so much, Tom. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Tom? All right. Well, next we will go ahead and hear from David Baker and all of the work that the Missouri Assistive Technology is doing to help people with disabilities, through programs and services and assistive technology. We'd like to hear about what they are doing. So David, oh, I see you. And you can, if you have slides or anything, go ahead and share your screen. You should have permissions.
Yeah, okay. I do not have any slides. Okay. Hopefully everybody's hearing me. I got a little jittery there in the beginning when there were some technical difficulties. I was afraid it was like influenza or something. It was going to spread down to me before it was all said and done. So, well, good morning, friends. I'm David Baker, and I'm Director of Missouri Assistive Technology. And it's actually a pleasure in a number of different ways to have a few minutes to talk with all of you about who we are and how we might intersect with some of the other activities that are going on around digital inclusion. Missouri Assistive Technology is what is known as a State Assistive Technology Act program. So there's an equivalent of us in all 50 states, plus the territories and possessions. And Assistive Technology Act programs were set up late 1980s, early 1990s to help increase access to and acquisition of assistive technology for people with disabilities. And we do that through a number of different ways. And we've sort of been working in this digital inclusion space as long as we've been around, because the digital world is very important in a lot of respects to how we can use technology to level the playing field for folks with disabilities. It's often been said about disability. I know a number of you are working in sort of different spheres. Maybe you're emphasizing low income, older individuals. We all kind of have our niches. But one of the things that's always been said about disability is it does not discriminate. Any group at any point in time can have members that have disabilities, and so something that I've heard said a number of times is that the irony to being a person with a disability is sometimes there's a digital divide within the digital divide, because a lot of times we need to find technology solutions to augment the computers that we are using to connect individuals to begin with. And there are a lot of different reasons why people struggle using the traditional computer, including vision loss, hearing loss, mobility issues, the list goes on and on. So again, we're actually located in Blue Springs, but we're responsible for serving the entire state of Missouri. And as I said a second ago, we do that through a lot of programs. And there are a couple of programs in particular that I want to make folks aware of, and then also make you aware of some other activities that we are doing in this digital inclusion space. So I don't think everybody is on the Missouri side. So I want to throw out real quickly that there is an equivalent of us if you are working on the Kansas side, and it is known as Assistive Technology for Kansans. And I think their website is atk.edu, but I can't swear to that. So, but you just use Google Assistive Technology for Kansans, and you'll find their program. All Assistive Technology Act programs have a great amount of similarity. There's a core set of services that we're all supposed to provide. Our website, since I didn't put together any slides here, is at.mo.gov. So again, at.mo.gov. So anything that I talk about, if you have some time and want to go down the rabbit hole of exploring those programs and other services more, then that would probably be the best place to go. So So let's talk a little about computers and computer adaptations, because I'm assuming that most of you at some point or another are coming across individuals who are struggling using the traditional setup that we see with most computers. The beauty of computers from an assistive technology perspective is that they're easy to adapt. And so that puts us in a really good position to begin with. And there are a number of different ways that we can adapt computers to make them usable by all folks, regardless of the level of disability, the type of disability, or the severity of disability. There are sort of two ways that we interface with computers. We're either putting information into a computer or we're taking information out of a computer. Generally speaking, individuals who have physical disabilities are probably going to struggle on the input side of the equation. Maybe they can't use the mouse, maybe they can't use the keyboard, those types of issues. General rule of thumb on the input side of the equation is that that's generally going to be folks that have vision impairments or developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities that are going to struggle there. You know, they have to be able to get information out of a computer. If you're somebody who's blind, computers and using them is a very visual type of thing. It's very graphic oriented. And so they need technology that can help overcome that visual aspect of it, because obviously they have vision impairments. And then on the other side, for folks with cognitive disabilities, you know, it's simplifying interfaces, all those types of things. Again, the key thing to remember is that there are agencies like ours that can help folks address those barriers, but that overall it's easy to make adaptations to computers. So we should never think that somebody cannot use a computer, because there's almost always a solution. And I wanted to show a couple of options. I could literally spend hours and hours and hours showing various kinds of assistive technology to folks, but I just want to kind of give you a flavor of some of the devices that are out there, and then we'll talk a little about programs. Okay, so I mentioned that for folks with physical disabilities, the input side of the equation is usually where they're going to struggle. They are tripping over using the mouse. Honestly, I know where they're coming from. I have always been under the belief that the mouse was one of the cruelest things ever invented, and I would like to go back and, metaphorically speaking, strangle whoever came up with the idea of tethering us to a computer with a cord that gets all tangled and doesn't seem to ever be long enough. So the traditional mouse is a nightmare for a lot of folks, and so you know, so that has to be something that needs to be overcome. Maybe I don't have the fine motor skills to be able to move the mouse around, and do the click and the left click and the right click and all those types of things. And so we'll start with sort of an easy piece that something that everybody should probably recognize. You know, for somebody who has fine motor skills, but they don't have large motor skills, then a simple adaptation, and almost all of these now are plug and play, is just converting over to a trackpad where they are able to move the cursor and do the various types of operations simply by operating in a much smaller space than they would if they were using a traditional mouse. On the flip side of the coin, for somebody whose fine motor skills aren't as refined, they need a larger space to operate in. Think maybe somebody who has cerebral palsy, or maybe somebody who's had a stroke and has some limitations as a result of the stroke. And again, simple types of ways that we can work around the mouse. This is just a trackball. I'm sure most people have seen trackballs. A number of people use them. But what's making this accessible for somebody who doesn't have fine motor skills is going to be the fact that the trackball itself is larger. So I don't have to use, you know, a couple of fingers. I can use a single finger. I could use maybe a mouse stick. I can use my wrist. I can use other types of body parts, and I can target easier to be able to move the mouse around on the screen. And then you'll notice the various buttons we use to do left click and right click and copy and paste and all those types of things. They're larger. And so by being larger, that makes it a targeting space that they can do direct select easier and do it independently. So just a couple of examples of some ways that we can get around some of the problems with the mouse and all of the foibles that it causes. For on the alternative keyboard side of the equation, it is absolutely stunning to me how many options we have for adapting keyboards. And if you start thinking through the various ways that people might struggle with a traditional keyboard and see all the options that are out there, it's kind of in my mind anyway, a very beautiful thing, because we have keyboards that can be superimposed on the screen for somebody who wants to touch out and type on the screen. You know, we've all seen those on our phones. Just quick little side story. If you ever want to see where technology is going for the general population, watch what's coming out for people with disabilities, because almost everything that we are using now as commonplace was originally designed for people with disabilities to help them address computers, voice input, word prediction, all those types of things. Years before, folks with disabilities were using those before they became commonplace. But to come back to the adapted keyboards, so here's a quick example of one. This might be used by somebody who has low vision. It's called a Zoom text keyboard. It actually could be used in conjunction with a certain kind of software. But what we've done here, again, is simple, but enables somebody to have equal access. The keys are larger, which makes it an easier targeting space. They're color coded. They have a yellow background, and then they have very bold black text on them. And these same concepts are used for people, for instance, who have intellectual and cognitive disabilities, where maybe we color code the symbol keys and make the vowels one color, or maybe we can do ABC layouts. So, you know, the underlying fact here is that there is always some kind of adaptation that's available. We have a lot of folks that will develop disabilities as they age. It's kind of part of the aging process, and we are a society that is aging to greater levels than we ever imagined we were going to do. And so with that comes disability, and a fair number of folks will have issues around their ability to continue to see the computer screen. And there are wonderful programs out there. Zoom Text is a program that's available that can take the content that's on the screen and enable somebody to magnify it to the level that's necessary for their needs so they can continue to use the computer independently. We can also do voice output, where content that is on the screen is able to be read to an individual. There's a couple of different versions of that. For folks who are blind, we use something called screen reading software. And there's an example of one of the most common ones, which is called JAWS, which hopefully maybe some of you are familiar with. But there's a wonderful free one out there called NVDA that doesn't have any cost with it, and that can sometimes be an issue for folks. And then I showed you the Zoom Text keyboard a second ago. Zoom Text is a very common screen magnification program for those folks that have low vision, and they need to do things like increase the size of the font or the icons, or do color contrast, because as they've aged, perhaps the black letters on a white background aren't working for them, so maybe they need to flip it to a yellow black background with maybe blue letters and numbers and all that type of stuff. And so those are just some really simple adaptations. For folks with more severe disabilities, we now are using eye gaze technology, where they don't even have to interact with the computer and the keyboard or even touch a screen. You might be familiar with voice input, which is becoming very common. We'll see a number of folks that have spinal cord injuries, quadriplegia, those types of things, who have good voice control, and they are doing everything by talking on the computer. So we spend a lot of time working with individuals to help them address those computer barriers that they are encountering. And we work with all ages, all types of disabilities. We work with a lot of other entities across the state who maybe have somebody come through their door who they aren't real familiar with assistive technology, other than knowing there are resources like us out there, and then they reach out to us, and we can kind of walk through what the options are. So I stress this over and over again. You know, we should never not think somebody can use a computer, because with today's technology that's been developed for folks with disabilities, there are a lot of options out there. But I wanted to also talk about some programs that you might all want to keep in mind. We have a program called the Telecommunications Access Program for Internet. This is one of those programs that we can say, because we don't get to say this often in the state of Missouri, that we are the only entity in the only state in the United States that has this program. And what it will do is it will provide free computer adaptations to individuals who have a computer and internet in their home and have a income of less than $60,000 for a household of two. And so, you know, maybe you are encountering somebody who's struggling with the mouse and the keyboard. They need some kind of adaptation. That might be a program to match them up with. And if they aren't familiar with what adaptation they might need, then they can request that a consumer support provider come out and assess their situation and what is the best option for them. And on the flip side of the coin, for some of the more complexes of assistive technology out there, like maybe the JAWS screen reading software or the Zoom text. If somebody is not familiar with that and they need some training, once they've received the devices through the program, we can actually provide consumer support providers to offer the training and get them up to speed on how to use that so that they can do more things independently. We also do a lot of device demonstrations. Again, we're over in Blue Springs, and so maybe some of you can come out and visit at some point in time. And the idea behind a device demonstration is just to expose people to all the options that are out there, walk through what various devices are, what they do, how they might benefit somebody, and if it's maybe working individually with a consumer, we can compare and contrast devices so that they understand the various features, how they match up with their needs, so that they can hopefully find some way of obtaining that device either through one of our programs or some other service that's available. We also have a very large device loan program. We refer to it as ETC, but what it is like a library of assistive technology where people maybe, you know, sometimes we don't necessarily know what we need. We need to use it in our natural environments and over a prolonged period of time to make sure that it's what we need. And so that's the idea behind the loan program, is so that people can check things out. They can use them in their natural environments to make sure that it's an effective, appropriate match, and then go on to get it through some other source as well. And the loan program is used a lot by school districts in the state of Missouri, or maybe disability-specific organizations. However, it's not used as much by other types of entities that maybe are working at some level or another with folks with disabilities. So it's certainly open to any of the entities on the call today. And so again, that might be a way of, if you have folks with disabilities, you want to get them matched up with appropriate technology, that might be another tool to put in your toolbox. So those are the sort of the three key programs. And again, there's more information on our website, at.mo.gov. And those are the three key programs around that might be beneficial to what all of you are doing, and the folks that you are coming up against as you're out there beating the bushes and trying to get as many people connected as possible. The other thing I want to talk about, because I'm thinking there might be some opportunities here for us some of us maybe to have some future discussions. We've been working a lot around the state on digital inclusion issues, in particular for folks with developmental disabilities. You know, we're probably all here in some way, shape, or form because of our concern for people that are on the wrong side of the digital divide, but also maybe because this whole issue came screaming loudly into our ears during COVID, when we learned how many people really are on the wrong side of the digital divide. But in particular, people with, well, overall, people with disabilities generally tend to track a little higher on being on the wrong side of the digital divide, but it's even more pronounced for folks with developmental disabilities. And as we move to a more digital economy, you know, their services are moving online. Their advocacy efforts are moving more online, you know, and so it's critically important that we address some of the issues that we see in that community. And so we've been doing a series of events around the state that we refer to as Digital Day, where we are trying to gather as many individuals with developmental disabilities and or providers to that population to get first of all, a better sense of what are the issues out there for future endeavors that we might engage in, but also talking through things like, what is digital literacy? You know, it's more than just being able to post to Facebook. What are the digital skills that providers need to be providing to that population, and how can they be done in a way that's effective? All those types of things. So I would love to maybe talk to some folks about doing some of the Digital Day stuff in conjunction with other efforts that are going on in the Kansas City area to further who we're reaching out there. And then we're hoping the next phase of that project is going to be some organized classes for people with developmental disabilities, where we are helping them address some of those foundational things like digital safety, building their digital literacy skills, making them more aware of the assistive technology in particular that can help them be able to use the internet and all the great things that we need to do with it independently and with confidence. And so just wanted to throw that out there as well. And the last thing here that I want to say is we had a staff person here who received some funding through KC Digital Drive when you had some grants earlier this year. And Brenda Whitlock is her name. And you know, I love how things can be like rings in a pond. And through that grant, where she was working with folks with disabilities in several locations around the state to get them connected and build some basic skills, she recently presented at a big assistive technology conference down in Florida known as ATIA, and her presentation was actually based on some of the things that she had learned and some of the activities she'd conducted through that opportunity that we had through one of those grants not too long ago. So just wanted to throw that out there because I love when things come together and we spread knowledge, starting off with something that seemed kind of like a one-off maybe in the beginning, and it's just kind of keeps rolling forward and more people are impacted. So I will stop there and see if there are any questions, and I would love to have further conversations with folks around making sure that you're set up to know who to call and what you might be able to do when folks with disabilities are knocking on your door and trying to figure out how they're going to cross the digital divide. Leslie, I see you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you so much, David. I think, you know, you made the point earlier that we definitely have been paying a lot of attention to so many marginalized groups on the wrong side of the digital divide, and I just haven't seen as much attention paid to people with disabilities. So it was really great to have Brenda apply for our Mogos Tech grant and work with her. And as a result of that, we put it in the chat, but we're talking with her about a partnership to bring assistive technology to our classroom at the Digital Services and Support Center at the Lamp Building, which is at Linwood and 71 Highway for those who are familiar with Kansas City. And I'm wondering, you know, do you offer training for organizations who are interested in doing that on how to make sure that the technology is connected correctly, and you know how to use it, and who might be appropriate for what technology and those sorts of things?
Yeah, that's a road that we're starting to think about going down more. I mean, we've done training sort of on and off over the years, but one of the things that's come out of some of this work I've done with the Missouri Developmental Disabilities Council is we need to figure out how to beef up those trainings and maybe set it up in a train the trainer type of fashion, where again it's another tool that folks have in their toolbox and can provide the necessary training. Any other questions I can answer? I would love to have further conversations with anybody at any point in time.
Thank you so much, David. I certainly learned a lot myself, especially about all the devices when you started talking about the mouse. I think it's just something we've taken for granted over the years. I was like, well, how else would we do it? So it was interesting
Right.
to see those other devices. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and actually one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about devices, and this is one of those wonderful things that happens out there in the world. You know, the holy grail for those of us that work in the technology for people with disabilities category is the idea of universal design. If everything can be designed so when I take it out of a box, I can use it regardless of what my strengths might be or my inabilities might be. And we're seeing that, and we're seeing that in particular in the computer sphere. So it doesn't matter if you have a Windows system or an Apple-based system or an Android-based system. If you have not spent any time going in and becoming familiar with the built-in accessibility features, then I would encourage you to go down that rabbit hole. We are now seeing what used to be $1,000 pieces of assistive technology built into devices. And I'd referenced the screen reader earlier, which is used by folks with vision impairments. There's now a screen reader built into all the Apple products, and it's called VoiceOver. And so I can go to the Apple store. I might be blind and I might be standing by somebody who's fully sighted, but when we both buy that iPad, within seconds we can have it set up to match our needs so that we can be successful in it. So, the key thing is, again, if you are not familiar with those, spend a little bit of time becoming familiar, because those might be the tools that you can introduce to folks sooner than just so that they're right there under their noses and they don't have to go out and find another device or find a funding source.
David, hi, it's Tom Esselman. I just wanted to make a comment in possible anticipation of you being bombarded with requests for partnerships or consultation, because these state digital equity funding plans have called out specifically their desire to have groups that are applying for this federal funding to look out for special populations like people with disabilities. And they've also said very specifically that they will look more favorably upon applications that showcase partnerships with other organizations that can help expand their capacity. And so I think this was a great opportunity to learn more, even at some of the specific levels of what you shared with us, to hopefully give those on this call who may only have one or two people they work with within their realm, but if they have any kind of disability, it would give them as an organization the wherewithal to say, hey, I partnered with MAT, I got some consultation, and that's part of why I need these extra resources. And I mean, that's how we as a group, we can all maximize the resources that are available out there, and in the process go after goals that have already been specified. These are gaps that are going unfilled right now. And so I think just having you on this call and the kind of information you shared was just really, really spot on, really timely.
Yeah, and Tom, I'm glad you brought that up. I've been monitoring all of the activities that have been going on, in particular through the Missouri Broadband Office, and anticipating these opportunities coming down the road. And I've thought about us as an agency doing some of that stuff, or maybe applying for some of those things, because I know there's an emphasis on people with disabilities. And just a side note, I provided a lot of information to them in their initial version, because I kind of thought their approach to people with disabilities was a little thin in what they were saying and one thing and another, but they had a big learning curve, I'm sure. But I think to really have to be impactful and to kind of reinforce what you were saying there is, we might be better off if we are partnering with as many people who are getting those grants as possible, because that's more of a each one teach one type of thing, as opposed to us kind of doing it in our little silo of people with disabilities. It'd be better if everybody has this, because again, the window for any of us to have a disability is always open. And so it's something we all need to know, and the technology is something that's part of the lifespan now for a lot of us.
Well, I appreciate your comment, and I can tell you, and I'm going to ask Aaron Deacon to chime in, because he's actually on the Missouri Advisory Board for Digital Equity. And like you said, the funders in Jeff City, the ones responsible for allocating, I mean, they don't know what they don't know. They're getting guidelines from the NTIA. They have broad criteria that does favor collaboration. It favors calling out these special populations that need support. But outside of that, I think they're reliant on us to do this information sharing and to do this sharing. And I don't know, Aaron, from my impression, even as late as yesterday, the State Office of Broadband Development, Missouri, I mean, they still don't even know how they're going to set up their ultimate funding allocations, and they're still trying to work. They haven't even gotten the specific guidelines from the NTIA yet. I don't know, Aaron, within your position, if you have more insights that might help guide the way, someone like David and his group could best operate within this realm of, partnerships.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, I appreciate the question. No, I don't know that I've got a whole lot of extra insight. I feel like our broadband offices do a really good job of getting the information out when it's time to get it out, and are pretty straightforward about when there's when there's not the the tools to act on. So I would say from but to your point, certainly we're monitoring what's happening at the state level, working closely with local governments and sort of the different peer organizations. And most of you are in different kind of action groups that we've got around a different sets of activities. I think Tom talked a little about the Digital Inclusion Fund. We had a listening session on that earlier this week, and we've got another one on Monday. So if anyone really want to make sure, kind of to Tom's point, that is developed with a lot of practitioner feedback. And so appreciate those of you who were able to come to the last session. And if you want to come to the next session on Monday, let me know. And kind of David, to your point, in terms of those partnerships and technical assistance, we're doing that with a lot of different organizations around the metro. And that's kind of what we're here to do. I mean, Tom referenced our peer organization, Smart Columbus, in Franklin County, which does a lot of the same work that we do here. And so, happy to help. If there are things that you're looking at, if you have questions, either sort of about the specific grants, or if there are ways that we can be helpful, connecting you to other partners and figuring out how to bring that information.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, as I was going down that road, it's a state agency, and it's kind of a monolithic one, and you get a couple of contacts and one thing and another, and you kind of work your way through the chain until you hopefully find the right person. And I will give kudos to the individual that I actually talked to in the broadband office who was willing to return my call, to return my emails, to listen to me. And I can only imagine the number of things he had on his plate, but I found him very receptive. But there's a lot of opportunities because we can't think about disability as being disability. Disability is in every target group in some way, shape, or form, be it low-income individuals, seniors, rural individuals. And so we kind of need to think in ways of baking it in and as just kind of part of everybody's knowledge.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I wanted to go ahead and share Tom Esselman's contact information. Tom, you sent it to me directly, so do you mind if I share it with everyone? Okay. From his presentation earlier. And then it looks like we're going to get a lot of time back today because that is all we had on our agenda. I did want to open it up, of course, to any other community announcements. So any news or events that your organization or you might have going on that you'd like to share with the group, now is the time. I see Joe Robertson you have your hand up. You want to go?
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you. And this is not Digital Coalition related necessarily, but Black History Month related. The link has, and a lot of people in the library in this call know about this. Of course, we have been partnering with the library and the Black Archives of Mid-America every month, annually for some Black History materials. And I just wanted to, if you want, we have these beautiful posters and we have these booklets with 6 profiles of local men and women who made history. And I want you to be aware of those. If we need them for you, like your offices, to share with people, however, you can get information on our website, and you could also email us at communications@kclink.org. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. So yeah, kclink.org or communications@kclink.org, and would love to share those materials. Just get in touch with me and we'll help you.
Thank you very much. And then it looks like Kimberlyn Jones, you can go next.
Good morning or afternoon to everyone. I'm Kimberlyn Jones, the Digital Opportunity Program Manager for the state of Kansas. And just wanted to let you know that our ADOPT grant program, which is advancing digital opportunities to promote technology. We have so many acronyms, I can't remember, but that's geared towards Wi-Fi and device distribution. That application is open right now. We have extended it to February the 13th. So if you know of any device distribution programs out there, I would encourage you to have them apply. Again, the application process has been extended to February 13th. And then we also have our DOC program, which is our Digital Opportunity to Connect Kansas. That is geared towards digital skills training programs. So that is open until the end of February. So any, again, programs that are geared towards digital skills training, I encourage you to apply for that kind of program. And that's it.
Thank you so much. And then it looks like John Fitzpatrick, you're next.
Thank you. I'm just sharing on my screen right now with an event that we're hosting on March 6th. This is KC Digital Drive, along with Digital Health KC. We're going to look at social drivers of health and the way in which we can use systems to connect across the community and help manage people's flow for various different social needs. And high among those needs is really the need for connectivity. And so we are emphasizing the fact that digital inclusion is really part of the social drivers of health. You can connect to remote monitoring, to your patient portal, to your provider, and so on. These are things that are very necessary within current society, and we'll be taking on those topics on March 6th. I'll put the link to this in the chat, but if anybody loses that, they just need to go to our events page to find out the information. So thanks very much.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And then it looks like Leslie was up next, but I think you put your hand down. So we can jump over to Pauline.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see everyone's lovely faces on a nice sunny Friday. I wanted to take this opportunity, and I'm gonna put this in the chat while I'm thinking about it. Again, I'm Pauline Johnson, and I am the founder and consultant with Scholar Smarts, a school to career program for middle school and high school youth. And we're always looking for opportunities to help our young people prepare for post-secondary options. One of the things we're really focused on, it was brought to our attention that there are some new changes going on with the FAFSA process. It has changed. It has now been revamped. Unfortunately, it's affecting our populations in the urban core, particularly those marginalized, disadvantaged, low, moderate income families. And we decided to make a event so that we can have a clinic, so to speak, where families can come and get the FAFSA assistance and guidance needed. There's a lot of confusion going on. I don't know if you've seen that in the media or not. So feel free to please distribute that flyer and pass the message along to those families that may have high school seniors, or to those individuals that for the first time they may have to deal with that FAFSA process. Obviously, that is the best step in getting on free money opportunities. So that opportunity again is on the flyer. It's going to be February the 10th from 2 to 4 o'clock at United Believers Church. And it will be a combination of assistance with FAFSA, the ACT prep steps, and scholarship tips. A free event, and we're going to have hot chocolate and cookies. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the event, because I have been seeing that in the media. And so I've been a little concerned. This will be a great resource for our community. I wanted to give everyone time to look through the chat and, jot down any notes. And this, of course, will be going up in our YouTube channel in case you need to come back. You'll have access to that all as well. And then is there anyone else that would like to share anything before we part ways today? Okay. You should have a calendar invite already and have this information, but I do want to point out that our next meeting is first Friday, March 1st, and we're going to be in person. We have been doing in-person meetings the last month of each quarter, just so we can get together and do our networking and programming in person. And that is going to be at the PlexPod Westport Commons on 39th Street.
We think we haven't finalized that for sure yet, but
Okay.
soft hold on PlexPod
Okay.
Westport
Yes.
Commons.
Stay tuned, and we'll of course update your calendar invites if that changes. And otherwise, if nobody has anything else, that is it for today. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.